Hello everyone, I'm Doshon Farad. Welcome to Right and Exact. On this edition, we speak once again to world-famous martial artist as well as spiritual teacher Shaha Mfundishi Maasi about spirituality as well as his time in the Black Power era, among other things. We thank you very much for joining us once again, Brother Shaha. The last time we spoke, you had, of course, we had touched somewhat briefly on your time with Amiri Baraka,
right,
and of course the Black Power movement in America in general, but Newark in particular.
yes.
But if you would, many people are familiar with Shaha Mfundishi Maasi, the martial artist,
Right.
but it's fair to say that many are not familiar with Shaha, the spiritual teacher.
Right.
What role did you play spiritually in the Black Power movement during that time?
My focus was to fortify the brothers, the Simbas, the rank and file soldier, with philosophy, principles, and practices that will allow them to realize their capacity as human beings. So you might say my role was one of discipline and indicating the spirituality of the warrior. I just mentioned these two words a few days ago during another interview or online teaching. There's a brother from Zimbabwe who was named Rua Shiri. He gave me two words. One was Kuzvibata, in the Shona language, Kuzvibata. Kuzvibata, Kuzvibata, meaning discipline, to reach out and touch yourself. The second word was Kurimedza, 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 to enthrone oneself with dignity. So it was about sharing those principles and the practices with the brothers to enable them to rise beyond the stereotypical Negro behavior. You know, giggling at what isn't funny, scratching where you don't itch, and buck dancing, in general behavior, being the minstrel. So my role was to take them out of that, help them to see the capacity as workers in the movement, and to make sure they remained in that capacity. So that was the spiritual role at that time. And as things progressed, I moved more into the spirituality within the martial arts itself. So we used the art as the vehicle for raising the consciousness. And that's how we got into Kupigani Ngumi, you know. It began with the term Yangumi, Y-A-N-G-U-M-I, Yangumi, which meant way of the fist. Not just the physical fist, but the mind being an instrument that could be used to defend or counterattack. Later on, we expanded to Kupigani Ngumi. Basically mean the same thing, but Kupigani means the way of striking, so forth and so on, you know.
Now, what we want to know from you, of course, we see, you've spoken in the past about the black community, of course, being in the shape that it's in because of a negative mindset, if you would. Right now, we see, as Michael Everett Dyson said, he said, with the Trump presidency, we see racism and white supremacy on steroids. With all of your spiritual training and your spiritual teaching, how do you feel the African American community should be dealing with a Trump presidency as well as the climate, the current climate of white supremacy that we see proliferating?
Well, we have to analyze it. When we see racist behavior and the practice of white supremacy, we're looking at the expression of a mindset. So if words or gestures are used to oppress, that's the physical expression of compromised emotions. Fear, need, and desire. The fear of black people, and there's a fear of black people, because we're looking at people who were captured over 400 years ago, placed in a very precarious situation, and who have survived. No other people in captivity in this country have done that. The Asians didn't survive the railroads, working on the railroad, or Indian brothers and sisters haven't survived on the reservation to the degree that we have. And we're right in the belly of the beast every day, and we produce music, great works, literary works, great political minds, scientists. We produce, so there's a fear of what would happen if these people came into power. So we're not going to let that happen. That's the fear piece. The need for white supremacists to see themselves in a favorable light, regardless of how they've treated others throughout the world. So that's the need. And then the desire to continue to control. So that's the emotional piece. We have to analyze that. When we see the behaviors, the physical expression, we know they're expressing this emotional condition that they're in. Then on the instinctive level, fight, flight, or freeze. In conflict, when we look at, let's be real, we look at European history, there's always the need to dominate, to conquer somebody, and wherever they've taken a culture, they've left desolation in the wake. So that's the fight. And all people have waged wars, but not constantly seeking to overcome other people. Nations have defended themselves against other nations, but the need to go outside of your nation and conquer someone thousands of miles away, looking for resources, whether natural or human. So that's the fight, the struggle. And then there's the fleeing, running away from what one has done. Well, things are better for you, being that we came to your continent. We brought the Bible, we brought God, we brought civilization to you. You're uncivilized in your behavior, and you brought civilization. You're not looking clearly. So you're running away from what you've done. Mentally, you're running away. So when we look at those pieces, there's the physical, the behavior, the motivation is in the emotions and instincts. So then, where is the mentality? The mentality is in conflict. It's in conflict. Living in deception, mental deception. How? Deceive myself through my instinctive behavior. I'm fighting to maintain control. And I'll freeze and shut down. If you try to educate me, I'll shut down. I'm not hearing you. Or I'm going to run away. It's based on my fear. But I'm not seeing, I'm not understanding my fear. I'm saying I'm dominating you because you should be dominated because you've done nothing on this earth. Done nothing? Then why did you come? How have you benefited from our sojourn here in America. You benefited. As simple as you use our music for your commercials. I hear James Brown. You can't sell your products without our commercials, with our music.
Rap music as well.
Rap music. We are your source of comfort.
So then, Shaha, would you agree with many scholars who have said that the relationship between black and white has been more parasitic than symbiotic?
Of course. But the thing that we must see is that it works both ways. In our confused state, we rely on their approval.
White validation or
Parasitic. And you know how they conduct themselves with us, parasitic. Train and pull everything you have. I don't like you, but I want everything that you produce. I love your ethos, so I won't tell you that. Parasitic, both ways. See, both races have suffered through slavery. We have some understanding of that. I don't believe the other side understands how they've damned themselves. So let's look at this now. The physical level, the emotional, the instinctive, the mental, and then the spiritual. So you brought us the Bible. You tell us about the arisen one, about Christ. But in no way are you living in accordance with his principles. So again, you're living in denial. That's unhealthy. Remember we were talking about the mind stream?
Yeah.
There's a stream of energy that has existed from time immemorial. Then there's the individual mind stream, my mind stream, that dictates my behavior. If I can see it, then I see the flow, then I see the rise of an impulse. Boom! Now from that impulse comes a thought or an idea, a word, and then a gesture. I'm healthy if I can see my mind stream. If I can catch the impulse and neutralize it. We say that person's very impulsive. They stand in jeopardy because of their impulsiveness. That's unhealthy. To be led by impulse when we know the capacity of the mind is what balances our health between mind and body, the capacity. So if we can't see the negative impulse and we act upon it, what do? We continue to send our vibration, we become vortex with negative energy.
Now, Professor Griff has said many times, you spoke about the music, that you said our music being used in these various commercials. Professor Griff has said for years that the powers that be are using our music or using music that is in line with our frequency, if you would, to mess with us. Is there truth in that, Shaha? Do you feel that they're purposely messing with our heads intentionally with the music?
With the subtle inferences in the music, that the music plays constantly, and you hear it. If you're out and about, you hear it. If you go to the club, you hear it. If you turn on the television or radio, you hear it. And the inference is that we niggas and hoes, you understand? We kill each other. I'm going to get my thing off. Money, power, respect. So that's what we see, and that's what we gravitate towards. I'm saying there's no upliftment in the music. And we vibrate with the rhythm, with the tune, we rock it. But there's something coming through. And that something coming through really opens a portal to demonic behavior. have to say it just as it is.
Now, when you say a portal to demonic behavior, are you speaking about, Shaha, please pardon me if I may sound, sound naive. When you say demonic behavior, do you mean demonic as in entities, as in like literal demons? Or do you mean just in terms of actions? Are you speaking about, demons the way they say most Christians would be speaking about demons? I have to ask.
Well, if we understand the African ethos, then we know there is a spiritual dimension, and there is evil in terms of energy. But we can simplify it by saying demonic in terms of the way the mind functions. For instance, in Buddhism, we say the demon of self-satisfaction. Well, I've done X, Y, and Z, so I'm cool with it. I can just lay back. But you've done nothing, really. You're satisfied with what you've done, but you haven't done enough. So that is a demonic state, and so meaning an energy that isn't working on your behalf. If I'm satisfied and laid back and the job hasn't been completed, you're not going to hire me again. If I hired brother to come in and do so-and-so, and he left it half done and walked away. And yet he wants to be paid, and he would like for me to hire him again. There's something out of kilter about that. You understand what I'm saying? It comes back to behavior. If my behavior is unsettling to you, and you feel it in your heart, and you know it's incorrect, and I continue to behave that way because of my motivation, there's something demonic in it. That's what I'm saying. It's an influence. Now, we can go further into the esoterics of this and the occult sciences, which people are dibbling and dabbling with nowadays, that are, again, opening portals. It's opening a portal.
Now, what role does diet play in this? Because as we can see, most of the fast food restaurants are in black communities, and many have said that that was intentional. What role does our diet play in this, Shahab? Do you feel that black folks would be much better off, as Dr. Layla Africa has stated and Queen Afua has stated, if our diets were more intact, more holistic?
Remember, we were saying that a balanced practice of martial arts is internal and external. External is the expression, but internal is the power source. The food that we eat affects the organs. The organs are the source of our power, our energy, our longevity, our IQ. So if we're eating food that has been tampered with or damaged or doesn't meet the standards that are necessary for homeostasis, then we have a problem. We have a problem. Now, is it being manipulated on purpose? Of course. You captivate a people, you capture them, hold them in bondage. Are you ever going to put them in a position to rally against you? You're not going to do it. You're going to do everything within your power to neutralize them. That's where we are. And truthfully, those who overlook it and continue to seek comfort in captivity are cowards. Cowards. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but if I know that there's some danger that can befall you, and I leave you in that situation because I don't want to be exposed to that same danger, that's cowardice. Say, brother, come on, let's go together. Let's not leave you there as a distraction and I'm gone. We see each other in jeopardy, but we say, well, it's not me. Not happening to me. I could care less. I'll go to the mall and distract myself. I'll go to the club and distract myself. I'll chase women and distract myself. Or I'll practice martial arts and distract myself. I'll kick and punch, establish my school, and be a pseudo warlord. I distract myself. Because I'll have my own little fiefdom. And I practice tribalism because I'm in conflict with other schools. Let me ask this question. With all of this skill, power, and talent in the black martial arts community, what have we done to address the problems that befall our people?
I think many would say that's a good question, Shaha. That's an excellent question.
What have we done? Now, I'm not saying that I have the answer, but I'm saying I see the problem, and there are things that could be done to help to address. For instance, if we teach the art, and we enable the student to see their emotional state. Not say, well, I'm going to have you punch the heavy bag or kick and punch, and you're going to burn off that negative energy. It doesn't work that way. Because something in the mind, in the consciousness, is causing the behavior. Can I help the person to see that? Maybe as a result of the family situation. It could be a lineage coming from a slave descendant ancestor right on down. It's complex, and you can't solve it by teaching another kick or another punch or garnering another trophy or another rank. It's not as simple as that.
So you feel then that perhaps martial arts, black martial arts in particular, has become too commercialized? Is that what you're saying? Or too Hollywood-like when you mentioned the promotion and the trophies?
That, and also the demon of self-satisfaction. My students, excuse my expression, well, I'll put it another way, can whip your students behind. Okay, fine. But the condition exists in the world, or people still suffer. So my student defeating your student, or me defeating you, how does that change the situation? Am I even aware of the situation? Is my emotional state such that I can't even connect with that? I only soothe myself by overcoming you. But you're descended from slaves also. So a slave descendant overcomes another slave, but the system still reigns supreme. How do we address that? By designing another uniform, or getting another rank, or gaining more students, or building a bigger school? The term Grand Master is thrown around.
I've heard that before, as a matter of fact. I've heard that it's thrown around too often, as a matter of fact, as I've been told.
In the tradition, now we claim to be martial artists, whether we call it karate, kung fu, hapkido, aikido, there's still a tradition. In your capacity, and in brother on the cameraman's capacity, there's a tradition. There are rules and values that you adhere to. If we don't practice the art in line with the tradition, we're not practicing the tradition. And we're not practicing the art. The insight into human behavior and conduct is central to martial arts practice. If we throw that out, are we practicing martial arts? Or are we kicking and punching? If that's our view, if we think that's martial arts, then we're mistaken. Of course, we generate force through kicks and punches to defend ourselves. I understand that. But Sun Lutang, a great Chinese martial artist, said that the art is to raise the capacity of the people, which raises the capacity of the nation. Are we in touch with that? Now, Grandmaster is an honorary rank, not based on physical performance, but usually you receive that long after you're able to perform on that level. It means one who has established an institution, built a hospital, built a school. I don't mean a martial arts school. Some act that has improved the capacity of the community, has empowered the community. Those were the measures or qualifications were red belt. This is not to say that those who afford themselves a red belt should be looked down upon. It's fraudulent. It's not that at all. It's really a misunderstanding of what the belt symbolizes. So I don't believe in policing, but I believe in commenting where there's a lack of understanding. Because lack of understanding becomes an energy in itself. So when you train your students in misunderstanding, they continue that trend of misunderstanding, and then the art becomes lost. The true meaning becomes lost. Look at the meaning of Christ as we understand, as it was established, and look what it has become, a means of beating other people down. I mean, look at religion in general. How many wars conducted because of religious conflict? What does that say about the converts to the religions? If you were filled with anger and frustration, fear, need, and desire, fight, flight, and freeze, before your conversion, and now you're carrying it out in conflict with other religions, how have you benefited from religion? Then you say, well, I'm doing this in the name of God. So now you tell me God is your hitman, your excuse for violence, your validation for violence. Do we see this?
Yes, we do.
I'm in my 76th year. Who knows if I have another 76 minutes or hours? I'm speaking from the standpoint of one who has concern for the world that may exist after I leave. I'm not saying anything for my benefit, really. Because in truth, I know that to this society and to the world, let's be real, they see me as just a old nigger. Let's be real about it. So I'm not dealing with status. I'm dealing with a capacity of understanding that we're not living and practicing the principles that can sustain life. We're living in a way and practicing principles that shorten life, destroy life. We're on the brink of destruction. So to run away from that, for me, is an act of cowardice. Because people may not like what you say, or you might put yourself in danger. I live in danger every day, being a black man in this society. I leave the door never knowing if I'm coming back, not knowing if I'm ever coming back.
And it's amazing, Shaha, how black men of all ages seem to think that, not just the younger black men. It's amazing how that fear, that concern spans generations.
Of course, it's real. We see a man running out of fear. And then the excuse is, I was in fear of my life. He's running, you have the weapon, and you're in fear of your life. Were you saying You're afraid that he would take the weapon from you. He's 25, 30 feet away from you. He's not coming toward you. But I know it's out of fear. But let's look at what that fear is. We discussed it earlier. I got to get rid of many of these niggas as I can before they rise up. Let's be real about it. Let's be real about it. Then you see a young man walking in Chicago, and you see him stumbling. He's being shot, and because somebody pulled up and saw, an officer pulled up and saw what he considered to be the confrontation, and that was his opportunity to kill a nigger. Are we afraid to say this? Be damned if I'm afraid to say it. This was the spirit of the movement that we lost. But it wasn't about hate. It's about love of self and wanting to see one rise. It wasn't about hating white people. Let me tell you something, my brothers. If you spend one moment of your life hating someone and not putting that energy into your own upliftment, then that's foolishness personified. I have a certain amount of energy. I can use it to hate someone, or I can use that energy to empower myself, raise myself up. If I'm intelligent, which one would I use? Which one would I do? Empower myself. So I'm not speaking hate, I'm speaking real. This is what it is. Kill black people out of fear of black people. But black people killing each other out of fear and ignorance, tribalism. Oh, you got on the red, you got on the blue, you this, you that. Cowardice. Anger. Fear, need, and desire. Fight, flight, and freeze. The physical action. Boom! Not saying we should train the weapons on anyone in particular. Don't need to be carrying weapons at all. Really, not we're going to use them negatively. You know the karma that comes from killing a human being? People may not believe in karma. Well, let's use the vernacular. Bad luck. The bad luck, the unfortunate accident that comes through acts of violence against others, and it may not happen for many years. But sooner or later, it's going to come. It's going to come. My grandfather would only give a beating once a year. And he would recount everything that I've done. And it was serious. It was serious. I say that to say, develop the capacity, use the energy to correct behavior, even if you have to be intense about it. Not violently, physically violent, but mentally intense. This is what you did. It was incorrect. It was outside of the dictates of behavior. And be intense with it. But don't walk around violently jumping at every issue. Oh, we're going to go out and riot now. No, don't do that. Save the energy, analyze, and understand what's going on. Then when you come together constructively, devise a plan of action constructively, not destructively. Don't align yourself with negative forces, because there is an energy that's seeking balance. And it is going to punish those who have been the purveyors of violence. Now, we may not understand that, but we look at certain states where people of color have been brutalized. Do you see the weather? And I'm not laughing at people's misfortune. What I'm laughing at is the feeling that, well, you know, we the chosen people, we got it their way, and we just living our lives, doing our things. Then when the weather comes, it's, can anybody help me? Well, who the hell were you helping when you had it that way? You said you had it that way. Now here comes the weather. The weather's saying you don't have it that way. Now we see the weather growing more intense each year. As human behavior, misbehavior becomes more intense. As it intensifies, we see weather intensify. There is a direct connection between human behavior and the weather. This is one universe where the planets take action upon human behavior, and human behavior, as it quantifies, influences planetary behavior. So when you ask me about spirits and demonic energy, study the planets. There are planets that contribute turmoil to the human condition. And there are planets that contribute balance to the human condition. Looking at certain traditions now, that which we would call the sorcerer or the witch doctor, the shaman understands that. The old southern root worker, the old granny back in the shack. You say, Granny, I got something on me, I just can't get this thing off me. Granny said, oh, I know what to do, honey. Go home and say the Lord's Prayer 25 times and take this root and make a tea and drink it, and we know that's real. We know it's real. So I'm saying there's a connection between human energy and universal force. So those who have inflicted pain and misery on their fellow human beings may never be overcome by those who they're inflicting pain and misery on, but something is going to come. Something is going to come. And the pseudo-belief in God is not going to protect them. Pseudo is when you say, I worship the Christ, but you damage his children. That's pseudo-belief.
Well, Shaha, as we get ready to wrap up this wonderful interview, what advice would you give to the young black warriors coming up behind you?
Study and analyze self. Analyze one's behavior. Analyze one's content, emotional content, fear, need, and desire. Then analyze one's instinctive behavior, to fight, to run away, or to freeze. Running away, I mean running away from responsibilities of behavior, of contribution, positive contribution. Running away from that, or just shutting down by getting high, off drugs and music, sex, whatever one's drug of choice might be. To see that, and then to strengthen the mind. Once I see my physical behavior, if I want to bring it in line with higher aspirations, higher mentality, I've got to deal with the emotions and instincts, right? Then once I clarify that energy, clear that energy, clean that energy, right? Then the mind opens up, and I develop the capacity to be a complete human being. That's what I would say to the young black people.
Well, Brother Shaha, we thank you for joining us once again. We hope, of course, to see you soon. And we also would like to thank our video audience for tuning in once again. I'm Doshon Farad, and you've been watching Right and Exact. Looking forward to you joining us again. Hotep.